Hey everybody, Eric here, and I would just love to catch you up on where I'm at in my thinking, my research, and my own health. Okay, so quite simply, I was somebody who struggled with my health for a very long time. Was diagnosed with Lyme and, told to do all the detoxes, all the cleansing, all the supplements, everything. Was just getting worse and worse. It took me quite a lot of work to really figure out what was going on. And, so now I want to share, like what I believe is really the crux of a lot of health problems and is often mistaken as a symptom rather than as an underlying cause, and connect some of those dots. All right. So quite simply, pretty much every symptom that you can imagine um, is going to be better understood through the lens of oxidative stress. All right. And if we can really just wrap our heads around this, then we can start to see that, like, look at this, look at all these different diseases that oxidative stress is thought to be involved in the development of. So wouldn't it make sense that if we can get control of oxidative stress from the beginning, we can prevent these? But then if we already have this pathology, wouldn't it make sense to not to focus on treating the symptoms, right, which is what we call the disease, but to focus on, again, what is the cause? That's the oxidative stress, okay? And remember, like, the oxidative stress, what does that mean? Okay, so a lot of people are familiar with, like, oxidative species and things like that. You need your vitamin C, you need your antioxidants, right? But the problem is that you can kind of like buffer the end result of the oxidative stress with antioxidants, but eventually that's going to be a failing strategy because you're not stopping the cause. You're not stopping the progression and the damage. Okay. And one of the ways that the body, I think, tries to slow this down is by suppressing methylation. I think that methylation increases oxidative stress, and in a healthy person, that's manageable. But if the person is overwhelmed with oxidative stress, then that is not manageable. It has to be suppressed. And I think that everyone has the genetic predisposition to have adequate methylation or undermethylation, and the body's going to decide which genes to turn on in order to fit the situation, right? So I think that the idea that, like, only certain people have MTHFR defects, I think that it's not a defect. It's not like an accident that's there. It's there as a safety mechanism for this. And this is why this shows up in, conditions that have such high oxidative stress, like autism. Okay. So now, I want you to see this chart here. Talking about free radical toxicity. Okay. Because we're going to look at this, through this lens and, connecting the dots, like, to things like autism or digestion problems or skin issues. Okay. So if we look at this, we zoom in, as much as we can here. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right. So we get the activation of this. All right. We see oxidative damage, right? It can cause birth defects, teratogenesis, enzyme damage, digestion, all these problems, carcinogenesis. Okay, but here's what's important. All right, Fe 2+, 3+. Okay, Fe, if you remember from chemistry and the periodic tables, that's iron. Okay, so iron is a big player in this. Okay, and then look at what happens too, is like how glutathione gets wasted in this process. Okay, so many people talking about glutathione. Maybe you haven't heard of it. That's okay. For those that know, that'll ring a bell. Okay, but then look at here too, right? All of these antioxidants that get wasted, vitamins E and C specifically. Okay, there's people that literally, they, instead of fixing this problem, they do things like do vitamin C, IVs, all right, or ozone IVs. Again, antioxidants. Okay, so now let's look at here, right? So we have lipid radicals and aldehydes. Okay, this is what happens when the fats get damaged. Cells get damaged. Okay, where do these damaged fats come from? They come from polyunsaturated fats, like seed and vegetable oils. Okay, so now if we go to lipid peroxidation, here's where it gets interesting. Okay, we scroll down, look, it's the same chart. Lipid peroxidation. Okay, so this is when the cells get damaged. If this is happening in the body, then you're going to have chronic illness, which is going to lead to chronic inflammation. Now, a lot of people think inflammation is the problem, but that's not the problem. Being chronic is a problem. That just means there's chronic damage, because inflammation is the healing process. So if we're obsessed with anti-inflammation, or we're taking drugs that are anti-inflammatory drugs, we're just shutting down the healing process, and we're ignoring the reason that we need healing in the first place. Major problems, right? Think about it. If you bump your knee and you injure and you damage it, it's going to swell, and then inflammation. That's the healing response. The problem is if we're doing things that are like constantly causing injury, like if we just kept banging our knee against the wall, right, or bumping into the coffee table over and over again, well, okay, you have a choice. You could either, move the coffee table so you stop bumping into it, or you could take anti-inflammatory drugs and painkillers and just keep banging your leg, your knee into the coffee table. What's the better choice, right? So let's stop banging our knees against the coffee table, right? So how do we do that? Okay, iron. Let's look at iron, all right? So what's interesting is that, lipid peroxidation, okay? So that's the process of damaging your cells caused by oxidative stress, okay? Lipid peroxidation can only happen in the presence of iron, okay? The role of iron in the initiation of lipid peroxidation. This is a very well-known thing, very well understood, okay? Iron causes rust. And fat can rust. That's what's happening here, okay? What is that called? It's called ferroptosis, okay? But now look up any disease, okay? And we see that because there's high oxidative stress, there's high ferroptosis, and wherever that's localized, that's how it's going to present as the disease, okay? So what else is happening here, right? A lot of people talking about things like leaky gut. Okay, well, leaky gut, again, is ferroptosis happening in the gut. Okay, now you're also going to have overgrowth of different types of bacteria and stuff like that, because all of those microorganisms also love iron. Okay, so again, it's going to come back to the iron. The iron is rusting your cells, causing the damage. Okay. And this is why lactoferrin is so amazing. Okay. Lactoferrin is in raw milk and, raw breast milk. And one of its primary functions is to sequester iron. Okay. Its primary role is to sequester free iron. But for the last 100+ years, we don't have raw milk after we wean from nursing, okay? And some of us didn't even get that. So now, what does that tell you? How important is management of iron to our health, if that's like one of the key living components of our first breast milk, our first food, right? And so here, look, iron wars, right? Lactoferrin, it competes with other microorganisms like E. coli, but also, fungus like Candida for this excess iron, because otherwise, those microorganisms are going to get the iron and they're going to use that for their cellular respiration instead of us. Okay. And if that iron isn't bound, it's also going to cause this ferroptosis and cause oxidative stress. Okay. But now look at this, right? Like antibacterial activity, antiviral activity. Okay. They talk about it for SARS. Look, activity against COVID-19 has been speculated but not proven. Well, I've seen people drink raw milk and get phenomenally better. Antifungal. Okay, look, Candida albicans. All right. So if we start to look through this lens of oxidative stress and iron dysregulation, iron accumulation, okay, then it starts to make sense. This is why if you get a Candida overgrowth or another infection, yeah, maybe you'll kill it with an antibiotic, but did you change the underlying circumstances? No, you didn't. In fact, you probably made them worse. And that's why we start to see, antibiotic resistant stuff. We start to see people who, do these crazy candida diets, and they don't actually get better. They get more vulnerable because they're creating more stress, more oxidative stress, more dysregulation. And these things are actually there. They're at the beginning, they're helping us. But then if we don't get this problem under control, then the microorganisms get out of control. And same thing with cancer. Okay? Because cancer is associated with very high levels of oxidative stress. Okay? We can do any one of these, right? We can do oxidative stress, we can do ferroptosis, right? And, people think, oh, it's sugar, it's the sugar, but that's a misinterpretation, okay? Warburg was talking about, Linus Pauling. They were not talking about like sugar causing cancer. That's insane, because we know that ketones and lactate fuel tumor growth. Okay, so it's not the sugar, it's the oxidative stress. It's the oxidative stress that's messing up our blood sugar regulation, our insulin, and our mitochondria function. Okay, and what's crazy is that we can actually get mitochondrial dysfunction because of iron overload, iron accumulation in the actual mitochondria. Now, there's also a whole line of research about how vitamin D, when we take that as a supplement versus an oral steroid, it's an immunosuppressive, anti-inflammatory. When we take it, D3 is the active form. It's not the same form that you're getting tested for, which is D2. Okay, they're testing D2 in your blood, then they're supplementing with D3. That active form causes something called anemia of infection or anemia of inflammation, and it messes up the receptors on the cells for the various types of vitamin D, which there's 24 that we know of so far. Okay, there's vitamin D4 in mushrooms, right? You know D2, D3. What about the D4 in mushrooms? But then there's 24 different types of D, and when we mess up the receptors with these exogenous, not naturally produced Ds, okay, it leads to iron getting into the cells, okay, and gets into the mitochondria. And this is a major feature of metabolic disorders, okay? So, long story short, if you have symptoms, chronic symptoms, and they're not getting better from whatever you're doing, treating the symptoms, then you need to stop treating the symptoms. You need to start treating your body. You need to start giving your body what it needs to get out of stress, out of survival mode, so you can reduce the oxidative stress, take care of, clean up that mess, and then give your body what it needs to heal. And if you do this, this is why you can see, some of the testimonials that, people that commit and go through this process and work with me, they finally see resolution. Not short-term resolution, not from just doing a cleanse or a detox that they feel great for a little while, and they have to do it over and over and over again. They get permanent and lasting results because I teach them how to eliminate as much as possible this problem, how to fix the iron issues, how to heal. So if that's what you're looking for, you should definitely get on my calendar and let's talk.